Welcome to another edition of Special Report Online. I'm Brett Baer. This is our Center Seat segment, a special segment with Republican presidential candidate Ron Paul. Thanks for sticking around. A lot of people typing in. By the way, we have a poll up. In our Fox News poll today, you were in fourth, but in this poll online, you get 49% of those typing in. A lot of questions. Many people asking a variety of things. Here's one. Asking about your immigration policy. You got into the fence situation, but they want to know specifically how would you handle immigration?
Well, of course, that's a fairly complicated subject. I've written a pretty long paragraph in my last book on immigration. But basically, I think we should have more border patrols and better immigration work.
So you would put troops on the border?
No, I don't want troops, but I want facilities. I want the border guards, not the border guards, but the immigration people. I think we're very inept. But I think it's an economic problem. You know, if we were a thriving economy, we'd be short of labor and we'd want labor to come in. So economics is a bad thing. The welfare system has something to do with it, because it is true, and I know people argue with us on this, but it is true that some of our people don't work because it's they lose too much money if they go to work and they get off welfare. So I think there's some of that. So the welfare system discouraged some of our workers, but it also, the mandates from the federal government are very detrimental. In Texas, we have hospitals going broke and schools going broke, so they come over and they get these free services. I would think that there should be no amnesty, no easy way, even if you have to deal, and I think there's no way you're going to send 15 million people home. But you should deal with something with a different category, but they shouldn't get the right to vote very easily. There should be no rewards for breaking the law. But I would like to see a more efficient immigration at the border.
Juan.
So far, in that seat, the center seat, we've had Michelle Bachmann, Santorum, even Gary Johnson and John Huntsman just yesterday. Now, when we asked about whether or not they would support you, if you are the Republican nominee, we got a lot of hesitation, reservations. Is it the case that you will support whomever the Republican nominee is?
Well, I would check out their platform by that time. I would think that they would have to have a certain position on the Federal Reserve, certain position on cutting spending, certain position on civil liberties, and if they shift a little bit, I quite well may be able to.
Well, it sounds like you're saying no. So let me then follow up with this question.
I would have to make a later decision.
Yeah, you're not saying yes. Okay, so what happens then? Everybody in this town thinks there's going to be a third-party candidate, an independent candidate. If you don't get the Republican nomination, could that independent candidate be Ron Paul?
No, look, Juan, you have to realize, let's say I was thinking about that, and I said that, then it would undermine what I'm doing. I'm running for presidency. I'm doing pretty well. I'm in third. So, no, I'm running for president in the Republican Party. I'm doing very well, and last time they wondered about it. But, you know, the whole thing is boy, the people are really frustrated. You go to New Hampshire, there are more independents than Republicans or Democrats.
Well, that's true.
Well, how about this? How about
nationally? Yeah, so there it is.
But what you're saying is you are not saying that you will not run as an independent.
Well, what I say is that I have no plans to do it.
All right. So how about, are you big on pledges? Would you pledge here tonight that you would not run in a third party?
I pledge that I have no intention of doing it.
All right.
I'm running for this Republican primary.
That sounds pretty political, Congressman.
Well,
okay.
you know, I have to vacillate a little bit in my life.
Okay.
We need a grammarian who'll work on that sentence.
Steve?
I wanted to revisit our discussion about Osama bin Laden and the Taliban. After the raid, you said this: we have created a lot of enemies because that's what the Taliban is all about. They're organized and they're motivated by the fact that we're occupying their land. Which land? Which Taliban land were we occupying on 9/11?
On 9/11, we had a major air base in Saudi Arabia, and they wrote and talked about it, and they complained about it.
But the Taliban, not not in Afghanistan.
No, just America's in the Middle East on their holy land, which aggravated the Al-Qaeda at that time. Now, the Taliban's a little bit different because their goal is not to come over here. Al-Qaeda will come over here. So that's quite a bit different. But Talibans are, people who want to just get us out of their country. That's why it's Afghanistan and all. But, we went into Iraq. There was no Al-Qaeda there, and they're there now. Everybody recognizes that there's not a huge number, but there are probably hundreds of Al-Qaeda. They weren't there before. The Christians have been run off from Iraq, and now Iraq is much closer to Iran than ever before. So I don't think there's much victory there.
Well, there were Al-Qaeda in Iraq beforehand, but I won't. I'll let Charles answer that. We could do about a 3-hour debate on that, but I'll let Charles go next.
All right, Congressman, 1 + 1 equals 2. That's this person's login. What area of policy are you weakest in?
What area? Well, I only have one subject that I'm interested in, and I don't consider myself weak, and that is the defense of liberty, because I think that's what America is all about, and I know what it is. I know what it means to be free and what civil liberties mean and what it means to the free market, and also it advises about our foreign policy. At the same time, the founders understood this very clearly, and they wrote a document which, fortunately for me, endorses the idea of individual liberty. So it's individual liberty I feel very strong in. I would say my weakest trait would be that I could always improve on my delivery, and convince people. But young people with more open minds and open hearts, they seem to understand what I'm saying.
You did well in the delivery of that non-pledge.
Mike in Bogota writes, what is your stance on global warming? Man-caused?
Partially, but I think the radical environmentalists have taken it over. Just recently, some major publications and universities have made some reports on this that, to me, are very, very strong. And these are scientists that says that it's been way overblown. So I read about that in the book, but think that the environmentalists take advantage of it. But to say that man doesn't contribute, but the statistics that show long term, hundreds if not thousands of years, we're not about, to melt. Besides, the one thing that really made me wonder about this, when they took some of these same scientists now that talked about a warming trend, they were worrying about an ice age 30 or 40 years ago. That made me wonder, what's going on here. But the reason that we don't do well for libertarians and conservatives is they think that if we don't endorse the EPA, we don't care about the environment. So I think it makes a point that we ought to be much better in defending the environment as property rights people, rather than saying that we have to depend on a bureaucrat from Washington making sure the environment is protected.
Charles.